Today we're looking at states that have hit rock bottom and in some cases have begun to dig. Every city has a bunch of stats that give you an idea where the city is and where they're heading. Any place you look at has its good and its bad. Sometimes they might have things like low poverty, good jobs, and light traffic, but their schools suck and their crime is really high. Today we're looking at states that have more bad than good and are getting worse. Unless something drastic happens to these states in 2025, they should just have another year of suckage. This is the fourth year we've done this series, and I gotta admit, we've been pretty accurate. There's a few changes this year. Towards the end of the video, there will be a question for you to answer in the comments section. So we're looking at states that will be going downhill in 2025. Get it? Got it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Florida. Florida, the land of retirees, gators, and Florida man headlines, is slowly sliding into the swamp, figuratively and literally. The state is facing serious challenges with climate change, with Miami projected to be partially underwater by 2050 if sea levels keep rising and they don't get a waterproof seawall or a couple billion sham wows. It's like Florida's trying to join Atlantis to be an underwater city of legend. And then, of course, you gotta worry about hurricanes. Florida was hit by 7 major storms between 2017 and 2022, with Hurricane Ian alone causing an estimated $112.9 billion in damages. That's enough to make you want to trade your surfboard for a lifeboat or just move out of the state. But it's not just Mother Nature making life in Florida a little tricky. The state's population is booming, with over 300,000 people moving in 2023 alone. This influx is driving up housing prices faster than you can say snowbird. The average home value in Miami has soared to over $581,000, making it one of the least affordable cities in the US. There are some that are far more expensive, but Florida's kind of got a reputation of being kind of cheap. At least they used to. And all that's before you start thinking about the monthly insurance premiums. Insurance is a big problem in Florida right now, with insurance companies packing up and leaving. They're losing money selling insurance in Florida. And then of course you have the traffic. It's like playing the daily game of how long can I survive the I-95. Then of course you got to think about the crime. The violent crime rate in Florida has been going up at a pretty good pace, especially in cities like Orlando. Violent crime in Orlando increased by 17% in 2023 and will probably be up about the same by the end of 2024. Official numbers aren't in yet. Florida is starting to feel less like paradise and more like a survival reality show. Number 9, Mississippi. The only thing surprising about this one is it's not number 1 or 2. It has been for a very long time. That should be Mississippi's new state motto. Hey, at least we're not the worst this year. The Magnolia State consistently ranks at the bottom in education, healthcare, and income. The median household income is just above $50,000. That is the lowest in the country, and the poverty rate is a staggering 22% statewide. It's like Mississippi's playing limbo with itself on how low can you go. The state's infrastructure is crumbling faster than a cornbread biscuit, with roads and bridges in desperate need of repair. It was years ago, but there's 2 states, Mississippi and Louisiana, that have this alarming number. I wish I could remember the number. I wish I could find it. But it was the percentage of residents that actually go fishing and hunting for dinner, like nightly or daily. And then, of course, there's the healthcare system, ranked dead last in the nation. If you need a doctor, you might as well just start praying, because divine intervention might be your best bet. But hey, at least sweet tea is always on point. The one good thing about Mississippi is it is the most affordable state we have. So that really low income, it's bad, but not as bad as it actually seems. The thing with Mississippi though, I think they're making some bad moves, and I think things are going to get worse next year. Number 8, Oregon. Yes, surprise, surprise, Oregon's not doing great. We've all heard the stories about Portland, but the Beaver State is gnawing away at its own future. Portland, once known for its quirky charm, is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Homelessness is rampant. The last few months, though, it's been getting a little bit better, but we still have 5,000 people on the streets. At one point, we had about 6,500 people on the streets. Crime also surged with a 23% increase in crime in 2023. 2024 is predicted to have another increase, but not that drastic. It's like Portland is trying to win the most likely to be a post-apocalyptic movie award. And it's not just Portland, we got some other problems too. Real estate prices are climbing faster than most people find comfortable, and the homeless situation just isn't in Portland. The state's cost of living has also gone through the roof, with housing prices in Portland increasing by 50% over the past decade. Combine that with the growing drug problem, Oregon has one of the highest rates of drug use in the nation, and it's clear why people are thinking twice before setting up camp here. Sure, the coffee's great, the beer is great, and it's a beautiful state when you look at nature, but it's not enough to keep this state from going downhill another year. With all that, then we have the distraction of all these jackaloons on the eastern side of the state wanting to take their land and move to Idaho or something. It's the Greater Idaho movement, something that'll never happen. What it reminds me of is when you're stuck someplace and you just talk about things. Like when I was in the Army, we'd at night talk about places we're going to go as soon as we get out of basic training. You know, those little dream conversations you have? That's what these people are doing. They're not having their way, so they act like they want to move their whole half of the state to Idaho. Got some bad news for you. Idaho doesn't want you. Number 7, Alaska. Alaska, the last frontier, is becoming more like the last place you'd want to live. The state's economy relies heavily on oil, and with fluctuating oil prices, it's like Alaska's financial stability is on a never-ending roller coaster, except this one you're not having fun on. The population has been declining, and in 2022, the state saw more people leave than arrive. Maybe they finally realized that 6 months of darkness isn't for everyone. Then, of course, there's the cost of living. Everything from milk to gas is more expensive in Alaska, and that's not even accounting for the emotional toll by freezing your butt off 9 months out of the year. Alaska's crime rate is nothing to brag about, with Anchorage's violent crime rate nearly double that of the national average. For a long time, Alaska was the place that, people that liked the outdoors and didn't want to be around a bunch of people moved to. These days, it's not worth it. Sure, you get that little check once a year, but that doesn't cover your losses. My experience, and I've been to Alaska quite a few times in the last few years. I've been to the Kenai Peninsula, Soldotna, Homer, Ketchikan, Skagway, Sitka. I've been to a bunch of places, all in the last 2 or 3 years. And one thing they all have in common, except for maybe in some of the nicer port towns where the cruise ships come, every neighborhood looks like a rundown neighborhood that you'd find in Arkansas or something like that. Too many broken down cars on front lawns. But it's still a beautiful state. That's what's amazing about it. But their problems are going to continue well beyond 2025. And as an added bonus, just recently, Russia started making claims that they actually still own Alaska and they're going to be taking it back someday. Whew, that should be a hoot. Number 6, West Virginia. Mountain Mama, take me home. Anywhere but here is what a lot of people sing there nowadays. The state's economy has been on a downward spiral, with coal mining jobs vanishing faster than a plate of biscuits at a family reunion. West Virginia's population has been declining steadily, and it's now the only state in the country where more people died than were born in 2022 and 2023. Talk about bleak statistics. Add in the drug epidemic that hit the state harder than a bull in a china shop over the last decade, and it's no wonder people are leaving this state. The opioid overdose rate is nearly 3 times the national average, and job opportunities are about as rare as sunny days in Seattle. The mountains might be beautiful, but the beauty doesn't pay the bills. Number 5, Michigan. Michigan, where the phrase pure Michigan is starting to feel more like false advertising. The state's once thriving auto industry has been on life support for years, and Detroit's population has plummeted from 1.8 million in 1950 to just over 600,000 today. It's like a reverse lottery. Congratulations, you won a free trip out of Michigan. But it's not just Detroit that's struggling. Flint's water crisis has left a lasting stain on the state's reputation, and Michigan's infrastructure is so bad it could be mistaken for roads from a post-apocalyptic movie. The state's average income is nearly $10,000 below the national average, making it tough just to stay afloat. Literally, given the number of potholes that could double as swimming pools. Dirty swimming pools at that. Michigan also has some of the harshest winters in the country, so it's hard to bring in new people and employers when there are better options just a few hundred miles south. One of its nicknames here is Water Wonderland, and in the winter they switch it to Winter Wonderland. Everyone likes the winter, everyone likes the snow for like the first week. Michigan, it just sticks around a hell of a lot longer than that. But here's my opinion on Michigan's future. Detroit is on the verge of a rebirth. There's great signs of what's going on downtown. Winters are getting milder year over year, and the state is making progress in a lot of areas. So I'm not sure how long we'll see them on lists like this. Maybe another 3 or 4 years and they'll fall out of the top 10. But as it stands, they'll probably still be getting worse next year. Number 4, Illinois. Illinois, or as some people call it, Illinoising, is not winning any popularity contests. The land of Lincoln is more like the land of leaving, with Illinois losing more residents than any other state in the Midwest. Over 100,000 people packed up their deep dish pizzas and left in 2022 alone. In 2023, they lost about 30,000 residents. Chicago, the state's crown jewel, saw homicides increase by 25% over the last few years, and carjackings are so common they might as well hand out free ride shares. Can you imagine how pissed you'd be if you're waiting for your Uber, you're looking at on their little map showing it's getting close, then it stops for like 5 minutes, and then it starts driving all over town. You're like, what the hell's going on here? You're like texting the guy. Guy finally answers back, and it's not Amir. It's some other guy laughing at you. I stole your Uber. And let's not forget taxes. Illinois boasts the second highest property tax in the nation. It's like the state is trying to give you a reason to leave, and they're succeeding at it. Now, one thing about Chicago, and people always bring it up, it is the murder capital of the world, and I always have to repeat this to people. They're not the worst, because if you look at murder stats, and any crime stats really, they go by per capita. And you have to look at it like this. What is worse? 100 people in a room and someone comes in and shoots 10 of them. Now you go to another room and there's 100,000 people in there and someone comes in and shoots 11 of them. The chances of you getting an early dirt nap are much higher in the room with 100 people. Chicago has way more people than any of the next 5 on the list for the most murders. They do have the most, but that's because they have more people. I'm not saying Chicago is a perfectly safe place or it's a wonderful place to live. It is, just you gotta go on the north side of the loop. Number 3, New York. Like we've learned in many other videos, most of New York's problems come from New York City. That's where the largest amount of people in the state are, so it only makes sense that, more people, more problems. You could say that about any state. I mean, Portland, Oregon drags down Oregon's numbers. Seattle, Washington drags down Washington's numbers. The entire state of Mississippi makes the entire South look like poor decision-making is a trend. But they called New York State the Empire State, but it's more like the Vampire State, given how it sucks the life and money out of its residents. New York City, in particular, is hemorrhaging people faster than a bad Broadway show on opening night. The city's population decreased by over 500,000 from 2020 to 2023, with folks fleeing the Big Apple like it's an audition for the next Escape from New York movie. Why are people leaving New York City? Maybe it's the $4,000 rent for a broom closet, or the 14% increase in violent crimes in 2022 alone, about 8% in 2023. It could also be the crumbling subway system that's more unpredictable than a toddler on a sugar high. Sure, the pizza's great, but at this point, it's basically the only thing holding this state together. I think New York State is on a slide that's going to continue for at least the next 3 or 4 years. Is it going to get as bad as the 1980s New York? Probably not, but it's not doing great. Number 2, Louisiana. Or as they used to say in that commercial, Louisiana. Louisiana is home to Mardi Gras and, well, not much else these days. The state has the second highest poverty rate in the nation at 19%, and its education system is ranked 48th out of 50. It's like the state is on a mission to score low on every list that matters. Even the weather is trying to get people to leave. Hurricanes, anyone? Crime in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and just about any place that has more than a couple hundred people is out of control in Louisiana. New Orleans, though, in 2022 held the dubious title of murder capital of the United States. And let's not forget the ongoing issues of coastal erosion. Louisiana is losing land faster than you can say gumbo. At this point, the state has to start worrying about sinking into the Gulf of Mexico, and some people might not even notice. Louisiana leads the country in a lot of stats they don't want to lead the country in. My favorite is they have the most workplace injuries and deaths in the nation. All right, before we get to number 1, the question I have for you. What do you think is the most underrated U.S. state that more people should visit? Leave it in the comment section below. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, California. Who didn't see this one coming? If you didn't see this one coming, you probably live in California and you're living in denial. But let's talk about the good things about California real quick. First of all, the weather is outstanding and they've got beautiful beaches. They also have amazingly well-paying jobs compared to most states, and their economy is insanely powerful. If you take Florida, Texas, North Carolina out of the equation, California's economy is bigger than all the other red states combined. If you take California out of that equation, Texas being the second best, they're only bigger than one blue state, which is New York. In other words, California is paying the bills for most of the southern states, but they're still going downhill, and they will continue to go downhill at least for the next few years. California, the Golden State, is starting to look more like the tarnished state between wildfires, skyrocketing housing prices, and a cost of living that's higher than Snoop Dogg. California is losing its luster. For instance, the median home price in San Francisco has hit a mind-numbing $1.2 million. And let's not forget about the exodus. The population of California has dropped almost 600,000 people from 2020 to 2023. If the fire and floods don't get you, the taxes will. California's state income tax maxes out at a staggering 13.3%, the highest in the nation. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, there's an ongoing drought. California is drying up faster than my patients at the DMV in California. But hey, at least earthquakes keep things exciting. Now, one thing about the California DMV, and that should be brought up more often, it is horrible. I just always assumed DMVs were horrible. Then I came to Oregon and it was actually pleasant. California is a horrible place to have to renew your license, get license plate tags, or do anything. This has been going on for decades, but my opinion, California will continue to drop through the floor for another 4 or 5 years at least. So we'll see them on this list next year. All right, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you're going to enjoy one of the videos being suggested right now. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.